Okay, this is going to be a quick review to get you ready for the Chapter 1 test, so I'm just going to go over some things, make sure to point out a couple things, so make sure you study these things that I am talking about. So, some of the things you want to make sure you see are when you need to use parentheses for these. So when you see words like this, that often requires parentheses. Make sure you have that. A good example is down here. I said the difference of. Okay, I can't say 3 times 8 minus n. If I do that, that will be wrong. 3 times 8 minus n will be wrong. So make sure you don't do that. Also remember that of is multiply, is equals. Make sure you know those terms. For order of operations, just make sure you do one step at a time. Remember that division and multiplication, remember you're working from left to right, whichever one happens to come first. Same thing with addition and subtraction. Whichever one happens to come first, use that. Okay. Now I'm looking at distributive property. Of course, you're going to have to know lots of things on this. You need to know that it's what's outside multiplied by both of the inside. So an example would be here. So I'm looking at number 8. See how I do 4 times x, 4 times 7. But what I did first is I changed this to plus a negative 7. That's addition of the opposite. Guys, if you use that, it will help you eliminate mistakes. So that's why I have 4x and negative 28. I didn't do anything with the 6x because the 6x is not included in the parentheses. Then at this point, I'm combining like terms. They both have an x, so I can add those to make it 10x. Notice the x stays the same. So make sure you know what a like term is and what isn't a like term. Make sure you know when you can add those. Of course, you can add things that are not like like terms, but you can multiply anything. Make sure you remember that. Study some of those examples. Okay, we also want to look at some graphs. So a couple things that we talked about briefly but did not take notes over, so you're going to want to make sure you remember this, maybe even watch it again. If we look at our graph, we want to be able to describe what's happening. So actually, I'm going to look at this one. You need to be able to describe what's happening, and you need to be able to do a better job in saying the value is going down. Okay, you're in 8th grade, you can do better than that. You can be more specific. You can say where it started at, in what year, where it ended at. You can know, did it go down more in certain years than in other years? You need to be able to recognize those things. Don't just say something, you just make the easiest thing to say, it went down. You can't get full credit for that in 8th grade. You should know more. The other things you need to do is when you make a graph, you need to always have a title. So notice the title here. Notice the labels for the y-axis and the x-axis. This is your independent variable, so you need to know that. And this is a dependent variable. You need to know that. Some other things you need to look at are x and y intercepts. So remember, for the x-intercept, we'll start with y-intercept actually. For the y-intercept, it's right here. Here's your y-intercept. For the y-intercept, x is equal to 0. Now we don't have an x-intercept, but if this were to continue like that, then this would be our x-intercept. And y would equal 0. That would be, so y in this case is the value. So if the value of the car were to go to 0, then that would be your y-intercept. Here, when x is equal to 0 at your y-intercept, that represents when she bought the car. So when she first got it. So it happens to be in 2001. So that's the beginning. And the value is going down. So make sure you know x and y intercepts. Okay, so we need to remember all real numbers, identity, no solution. Those are things that people struggle with. An equation has an equal sign. Relations. Still have people yesterday who are asking me what a table is. You need to be able to change from an ordered pair to table to mapping. Make sure you know that. Know how to use the coordinate plane. Know this list. Okay, you need to know the domain, independent variable, x-coordinate, output. Those are all the same. You have to know those. I'm going to use that a lot. And then all these things you need to know. Functions. Make sure you can solve a function. Make sure you pay attention to how I do it. So if I look here, see how I replaced x with 2. Because I'm trying to find f of 2. But I didn't change anything on this side. Again, I am not solving for f, and I am not solving for g. F just tells me which pattern to use. A function is a pattern. It does not need to be solved for. The left side of my equations do not change. Look how this doesn't change. Look how this doesn't change. I'm not solving for it at any point, so don't try to do it. Also make sure you know if you get one like this, that you need to find this part first. Find f of 2 first. That's what I did here, solving for f of 2. Then once you get that answer, put it back and then subtract 3. Or in this case, find g of 2 first. That's what I did here. Then I put my answer in there, then multiply it by 4. You need to know what's a function and what's not a function. So make sure you know what a graph looks like that is and that isn't. Make sure you know tables, mapping, ordered pairs that are functions and are not functions. And there are some more examples. So study the notes, watch any videos you need to, look back at the homework and the quizzes you missed to make sure you're ready for that test.